Is AI, artificial intelligence, going to ruin the music industry? My name is Jordan, and I work full time as a musician. And I'm just going to share my thoughts. I think there's some things that we can really be excited about, AI integrating into music, but I think there's other things that we need to be super concerned about. And I'm just going to talk about like what the future is, what we should do as musicians, things to look out for. So just off the bat, I actually think over the next decade we are going to see a Bach level. When I say Bach, I'm talking about like Johann Sebastian Bach level of influence come from AI that we haven't seen in the last 300 years. And when I say this, music used to be kind of all over the place. We've always had like percussion instruments, what everything that we can like do on our body, stomping our feet, beating drums. And then we've always had instruments like the violin, trumpets, all that kind of stuff, like lutes. But nothing was ever unified until Bach came along and he wrote the Well-Tempered Clavier, which every single keyboard instrument to this day has been influenced by what Bach did. And we all have kind of copied him. So that's like your organs, your marimbas, pianos, glockenspiel, keyboards, anything like that is heavily influenced by Bach. Everything that came after in the Baroque era, classical music was influenced by Bach. That's why anytime like I think it was Katy Perry, maybe it was Marvin Gaye, there's been lots of like big controversies, people suing music over chord progressions. Like if you guys are gonna like come after each other for that, I promise you Bach wrote something 300 years ago that you're using. So it's all comes from Bach, in my opinion. And I think artificial intelligence in music is going to have a similar shift where for the next 100 years and for the next couple generations, we are going to see the influence of artificial intelligence in music. Um, as far as career musicians, here's the things that I think people are going to be the jobs that are in danger. Studio musicians. So a lot of right now, people who can sight read music and just go into the studio and play something, I think they're in danger because it's going to be cheaper to just type in a prompt. Hey, I need this sound, and it's going to create this. We already kind of had this with MIDI, where if you play the piano and you program in sounds, you can basically play any instrument. So why hire a saxophone player when you can just play the part on your piano and make it sound like a saxophone? That's going to increase like tenfold. It's going to increase by tenfold, where you can just type in what you want, the parameters, what key you're in, what the tempo is, and AI will create that. So I think studio musicians, I think the best of the best recording artists will still want live musicians because you can tell a difference. But I think a lot of our pop music will divulge into a lot of AI recordings, especially like backing tracks and demos and stuff. So I think that'll hurt. Jobs that I think are safe for any kind of teachers and education and live performance, which is everything that I do. So I think I'm good for a little bit because you just cannot replicate a good, skilled teacher who can work intimately with a student and knows exactly what they need and can give personalized feedback. I think that's invaluable in like a physical space, whereas AI cannot replicate that yet. And then I think live performing, so like I'm talking your weddings, hotels, like live venues, they're gonna need live musicians still. But because the studio musicians don't have anything to do, that's gonna become much more competitive. Interesting. So yeah, I think those are two jobs that we'll see. Same with like studio techs. We might not need them as much because AI might be able to take a lot of the jobs, which it already did to a degree. Like when I use Logic, which is the digital audio workstation I use, we can quantize things. So if I play something in and it's not exactly what I meant to, I can use a quantize feature or an auto tune feature, which it's not technically AI. It's already been programmed to do that, but it is a tool that assists me. So we already kind of use those to a degree. I think it's just been exponentially increased. And there's an interesting metaphor about this where is in like I think it was the 1900s. Everything in Western culture was kind of built around really the whole world was built around the horse and carriage. And so if you think about the jobs at the time, there was people who needed to maintain the roads specifically for horses, um, blacksmiths who were having to like make horseshoes at a high level because horses were using through them. People who are making wagons and the wheels for wagons, all that. People who made like horse food, people who trained horses, those were all huge infrastructures. But then Ford comes along, creates the car. People don't need horses in the same way. Horses become a luxury. And so it changed everything. And those blacksmiths, they could either throw their hands up and give up, or they could adapt, be like, okay, I'm really good at making horseshoes. I'm really good at making these cart components. How can I take these skills that I have and how can I make car parts, or how can I work in these factories? How can I be of influence? So I think we need to be flexible. We need to think, okay, how am I going to, in this new world we're living in, how can I adapt? How can I use AI as a tool? So here's something that I think is going to be super helpful for people who, like me, may not be able to afford live musicians, but you write music and you want to hear what it would sound like. We can use AI to kind of replicate the orchestra. And so maybe it'll make music more accessible for some people. Or say you're an extremely talented singer songwriter, but you don't have the money to hire a band. You can kind of use AI to fill in the gaps. So I think that's going to be incredible for the music industry at a low level where we're not becoming over reliant on it. Now, here's something scary that I do think we could see is live music will almost become a higher tier of luxury, and uh, AI generated music will become the norm. So say like right now, everybody has Spotify subscriptions, where we pay, I was about to say like $10 a month. It's probably more than that. Who knows? We pay $16 a month for our Spotify, and we can listen to whatever music we want. I would not be surprised if even 10 years from now, Spotify has different tiers, and it's like, okay, here's the AI generated playlist for $6 a month. You can have this tier of subscription. But if you want to like listen to Adele and Taylor Swift, you're gonna have to spend like $30 a month. I see that happening in like television too, where there's almost like free cable subscriptions or like very low priced where you're watching TV shows that are completely AI generated. But to watch the real thing with like Ryan Reynolds and whomever in it, you're gonna have to pay big bucks for it. So I do fear that. And something else I fear, and I don't know, I haven't even seen this anywhere. This is just me thinking about it. Um, is kids, and I'm not even talking about like kids who are alive now, but the kids that we're having, and maybe even their kids, will actually prefer AI generated music, which I think for the culture would be detrimental. Because there's something about like when I play a Beethoven piece of music, Beethoven wrote that. His hands did the same thing that my hands are doing. And for the last like several hundred years, teacher to student, that student becomes a teacher, that student passes, that teacher passes it down, etc. There's like a lineage of culture that transfers through real people writing and performing and teaching and learning music that I really fear is going to become lost. And then we'll just see this like big conglomeration of blah, where there's like no unique characteristics to music. I don't know. So I do fear that there will be a generation of kids who almost prefer the sound. I guess it's almost like how, and I feel like such an old person when I say this, but I'm becoming like the people who are like, oh, I don't like to listen to that auto tune stuff. I want to hear the real thing. That's going to be the same thing. I'm going to be like, I want to hear my auto tuned singers. I don't want to hear this AI generated stuff. Um, Something else that I think could happen, and now I've said everything I wanted to say, is we could see like huge copyright lawsuits in the future, because I could right now go on a website and be like, create a Kanye West song, and it'll sound just like Kanye West. And what are the implications of that? If we don't know who's performing it, or maybe like a famous artist releases an album and they've just completely AI generated everything. So it's like, how are we going to know what's real and what's not? So yeah, like I said, I think teaching and live performance are safe for now. I think it's those behind the scenes studio jobs that are going to be in danger. So what do you guys think? Is AI in music good or bad? Is this something we should be afraid of? Is this something that we should openly embrace? Is there a gray area in the middle? I don't know what to think yet. But yep, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. And I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I should have said that at the beginning. And I'll see y'all next time.